weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show. You did it again. I almost thought you weren't going to make it back in time. Like,
I know the theme music well. It helps.
It goes into the final, like, end, the end of Ryan's hook there, and I see you get up from your chair, and I'm like, Andy's gone. Okay, bye. How you doing today?
When I sat back down, the chair malfunctioned too. I have it set up so it doesn't lean back, and I sit down, I hear the click, I start falling back. I'm like, whoop. That's why nice little laugh there when I joined the stream too.
I didn't see you fall back. I looked over and at the thumbnail, and your face was like right there, and I was like, "Oh man, this is perfect timing." I wish we were live right now because it's just face full of Mike's face right there.
Like I said, man, I obviously no one sees us when we're during the intro, but I'm there like singing along to the theme song, so I got it down pretty good here. I can go in and out. I know when I need to be back in front of the camera. So we nailed it there again, cutting it close, but we hit it.
It works out. Hey, it's good to see you. We're coming to everybody on Friday because it's a little lighter weekend, and we thought this is a great opportunity to look at the mandatory payout day at Belmont Park on Sunday. Mandatory payouts are for the early and late pick 5 and the Empire 6 sequence. The pick 4, I don't think is ever a mandatory payout, at least not there. They just keep it going between the Naira tracks. But if you are looking to play the late pick 5 or the Empire 6, we're here to help do the work for you. So 60 to 80% of the work can be done right now. You just got to watch us for an hour, listen, play our horses, and then figure out the other 2 legs by yourself.
Men of the people. I'm telling you. Yeah, no, it should be a nice pool. And I even went ahead and handicapped this for on and off the turf. So I don't know if you've been watching Belmont the last couple of days, but it's been a little sloppy. Just a touch of rain went through there.
Yeah.
So they've been splashing over that main track, and it's not supposed to rain for the next 2 days. And like you said, Sunday's the last day of racing for a couple of days, so it's more likely they'll have these last couple races on the turf. But it also is supposed to rain Sunday afternoon. So if that does come around Sunday afternoon, I assume that they may take at least one, maybe both of these races off. So we got you covered. I got some on and off the turf picks ready to go here.
You did more work than I did. I expected it to be wet conditions, but still be on the turf because we have two of the 4 races are going to be on the turf. One of them is a stakes race, so I would at minimum expect them to keep this stakes race on the turf. It starts off with a 30K claimer. They probably, if they are going to take a race off, I would say they go with that one. But I'm glad you at least did the work twice. I just did the work once. It's been a busy day for me so far. This is the third show, and I apologize to anybody who was waiting for us at 2:30/5:30. We started about 9 minutes late because Magic forgot to send Mike the link to come into this and do the show. I had Aaron and I interviewed John Lees. That's going to be a future show coming out on Monday, so that it'll be podcast and the video version. We had a lot of fun doing that one. John, I talk about John all the time on the show, but it was so much fun. Aaron and I were talking long after John got off the air, just about how much fun it was and how exciting and how great of a guest he was. So he has a very interesting background for how he got to where he's been. He's worked in almost literally every position other than jockey in his career. So make sure you check that out.
Man on a horse.
Well, John's almost.
There goes the chair again.
I think, you know what? I think for Christmas, we're going to try and get you a new chair. This thing is going to, I don't know if this thing actually lasts till Christmas. We're less than 2 months away, but
yeah. Send it on over. No, that's great, man. One of the things I was going to say, the best thing I heard all week was the Magic Man over here taking over the Racing Dudes airwaves and absolutely crushing it. I mean, the interview was wonderful with Jessica. I thought you did an awesome job interviewing her. She's a bug jockey we've talked about quite a bit here on the SoCal circuit. And then Blinkers Off had to steal my host and do a little pre-entry show here, and my host crushed it there. You did awesome on both those podcasts. So anyone out there who's listening or watching, make sure you check out Magic's work on the Blinkers Off episode. I think it was 464, which was the Breeders' Cup preview, and then also the Magic Mike, which we got dropped. What was it, yesterday?
Yep.
Or was it? Yesterday was an awesome interview as well. Interesting to hear the jockey's take, and I loved. We texted about this. I loved her confidence. I like it when a jockey rides in a certain manner where they're aggressive but confident in what they're doing. And you can even tell in the interview, she comes across that in that same manner. And that, to me, is a good sign moving forward for her and her career.
Yeah, that was a big thing that I got from it too, was just she never, because I've interviewed enough people that if they don't have confidence or if they're new to something, you can tell. And I usually cater, I'll try and adjust my questions to try and be a little softer, make them feel more comfortable. She was confident with the interview. She was confident about everything. She really hasn't blinked since, I mean, her first ever start, she got second. And she said in the interview, I didn't know afterwards that I got second. I was so focused and so zoned in the race, which is something you want. You don't want someone on their first ride going, holy shit, I'm in second. This is great. It's zoned in. The horse is fine, getting kickback. She got the kickback in the face for the first time. So thank you. Thank you for the compliments. It was a very fun, both interviews, John and Jessica, very fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the John one too. I mean, I know you and John, you've done picks with him down at Del Mar before, and he's definitely a fan of the show and has talked to Aaron and Jared over the years as well. So it's exciting to have him on the airwaves as well.
Yeah, Aaron was very happy to join. They got to talk about Will Rogers for a while, so I know that made it Aaron's day.
All he really wanted.
Yeah. Well, I had to twist his arm to get on because he didn't want to step on me. He wanted me to be able to do the interview, and I was like, but you're just as big a fan of this guy as I am. It's like if I was going to interview Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, Jared, you want to come on and talk to your boy Pat? And he's like, no, it's no, you just ask him these two questions, but I'll just listen. Jared would be like, hell yeah, I want to be on there.
Let's say it's about -200 that Aaron asked about Welder.
Oh, we went deep into Welder.
Yeah,
we went deep into Welder. Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah, it's great. The best. So yeah, make sure you check that out. It'll be on Monday morning. And then actually, since we're talking about Monday, real quick, Monday is going to be the draw for the Breeders' Cup, and we will be doing the Breeders' Cup draw reaction show live, just like we'll be doing it live instead of recorded, like we did with the pre-entry show. So make sure you tune in. That'll be Monday afternoon, evening, depending on where you're at. I saw they don't even draw until 4:30 Pacific. I was like, what? Why? what are we waiting for? It's whatever.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out our schedule for next week as well, because obviously Monday we've got that show. I think it's going to be later in the day, obviously. Yep. And then Tuesday and then Thursday, I'm on a plane to Florida to go participate in the BCBC from Gulfstream Park. So we'll have to figure out what's going on down there as well, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, we'll figure things out. That's so far in the future. But speaking of the Breeders' Cup, though, this is gonna be the best thing that I saw. You remember 3-4 months ago, I was talking about how cool it would be if they had cameras on the jockeys, and I just want to after the race, I want to just be able to zoom in how they were riding, hear what's going on. Breeders' Cup, listen to me, man. We're getting jockey cams for every Breeders' Cup race. There's going to be two horses or two jockeys every race. If you're watching at breederscup.com, you can actually select, jockey 1, jockey 2, and you can watch the race live. That's what I've been reading.
With audio?
I don't think with audio.
Oh,
well, because then there might be some cursing going on. They couldn't edit out in time. But and then also on that same area on breederscup.com, they have you can zone in on one horse. So let's say you absolutely love Improbable in the Classic, and you want to make sure that he's not getting too hot because he has a tendency to be a little wacky in the gate sometimes. They have cameras that will be on every single horse, wow. And you can just literally follow this horse from the moment he gets to the saddling ring, and it stays with him. And you can do that for every horse in every Breeders' Cup race. The innovation that they're going through here, because everyone's gonna be watching from home, it's so much better than what it's ever been, and I'm so happy about that.
Do you watch Red Zone on Sundays?
I used to, yeah.
So have you heard of the Octo Box? Like in that early kickoff window.
Oh, yeah.
All the kickoffs. Man, I hope they have like an Octo Box for the races at the Breeders' Cup. Imagine like 14 horses, 10 horses. We can hear you, buddy. Imagine.
No. I'm making sure Breeders' Cup can hear you guys. Are you listening? Mike has this is how we go next level with this.
It would be incredible if you have 12 little boxes and it's all 12 horses roaming up on the track, so you get an idea of what they're doing, how they're handling it. Like, I would personally love that. Like, I would have that feed up every chance I got, because it would get you a lot better idea of how, like, hey, one of the things I like to look for is if you have a horse that's been going long that's shortening up the sprint, is it an aggressive workout when they get out on the track right before it to warm him up aggressively to get that horse more the juices flowing, because they've got the stamina to get the distance, but they may not have the speed early. Like, those type of things would be great to be able to watch. And it's something that you can see on track. If you're sitting in the stands at Saratoga or you're down at Del Mar, you can see the warm-ups from these jockeys. you got no shot watching from home on TVG or on Naira Bets or any of the feeds. You're seeing one horse at most at a time. And generally, you don't get to see the aggressive warm-ups versus it's generally just people talking about the horse that's just standing there on TV. So that would be incredible if we could see them all at once.
Man, I just started. So you remember Hard Not to Love always has this issue in California where she doesn't want to go into the gate, and it takes the entire post parade just to get her on the track.
Yeah,
I kind of want to watch. I want that because I can't be there at the track to see her. I just let me watch Hard Not to Love, and we could sit here and do live wagering, and I'll give you odds about will she actually make it to the gate this time? Because I think it's one of those things you could do.
Over under 3.5 minutes for her to get out of the tunnel.
Oh God, way over. Always take the over on that one. Yeah,
I love how Magic likes watching a good train wreck.
it's not. It's barely a train wreck. It's like watching a really intense action thriller movie where it's like right at the last second, boom, they pull up the plane from nosediving. So that's what it's like with Hard Not to Love in the gate.
Except it's just a lot slower. Because it's just it's a little trickle going on. It's like watching a faucet that's just that little drop. That's one step every time there's a drop.
On today's show, like I said, we're going to take a look at the late pick 4 sequence that closes out Belmont Park's fall meet on Sunday, November 1st. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, kicking things off for the late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park on Sunday, November 1st. Race 6 on the card. This is a field of 12 males, 3 and up, plus 2 also eligibles, plus 2 main track only entries, non-winners of 2 lifetime, 30K tag, going a mile and 1/16 on the inner turf course. So it's about 1 7/8 turns, I think you can call it that one. You have favoritism on the number 4 Stanhope at 3-1. Mike, I'll be honest, when I opened the PPs for this, the first horse on the first page of the first race is that Freedom and Whiskey that was won at 36-1 when I was told this horse never had a shot in hell of winning that day. So I already feel like I'm going to lose this sequence.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, the horse hasn't run a step since, but we're back down into the claiming level for the first time since then. So maybe, I actually do have the horse listed on deep tickets, as I think it's got an outside chance because the buyers do kind of fit with this field, which isn't exactly a field full of world beaters. One of the things I noticed right away was there wasn't a ton of speed in here. It seems like it's going to be more of a plodding pace, and that really, unfortunately, lends itself to the favorite. I think Stanhope is the top pick here. You're dropping out of the allowance ranks for the first time, and honestly didn't run bad at all last time, going a mile and 1/16 over the same Belmont track. Sat behind the speed for the first half mile or so, did it in about 47, then took the lead over, and then just didn't have it going down the lane. Now we're going second off a layoff, which is a good angle with Brad Cox. We're also going second time out of lay 6. We're returning back to Castellano, which I think is kind of interesting considering how poorly it went with him aboard. But the fact that he decides to get back on here makes sense to me. It's a plus for me. You got a 3-year-old later in the season, so that you should see some improvement there. Put all those things together, and you add in the lack of speed. Look, speed versus better, second off a layoff for Cox. Those two very strong angles long term. So I am going to use the 4 Stanhope on top. I have one other horse in my must uses. I'm going to go to the 9 horse here, One Eyed Jack. This horse clearly had high aspirations. $675,000 purchase. Spent his 3-year-old career in the barn of Chad Brown before moving over to the Pletcher barn. They gave this horse every chance they possibly could to try and get it into the kind of the classics, right? You could kind of tell that they wanted this horse to be a longer dirt horse, didn't really want to move over to the turf, but the breeding is very good for the turf as well. The horse hasn't really taken a big step forward, but this is a huge drop in class here. It was able to break its maiden at Laurel, which isn't the best circuit in the world, but was at Belmont and Saratoga prior to that. I like the move with the blinkers off here. I think this horse is ready to go, and this is going to be by far the easiest spot that this horse has faced. So the switch to turf shouldn't be any issue, and the drop in class is a huge plus here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 9 One Eyed Jack as the other must use and start with those 2 horses.
So you're using 3 horses total in this sequence. I'm using all 3 of yours, so I'll start with that. I ended up flip-flopping. My top pick is the 9 over the 4. I love the fact that Irad's getting back. They're going to be aboard this horse for the first time. The blinkers off, the high price tag. You mentioned all that. Uncle Mo's do really well on turf, but this horse's damn free money is actually a half to Dr. Mounty, who's won multiple graded stakes on turf. So there's really no question this horse should be able to handle it. The blinkers off, I think this horse is going to look like the first 2 races of its career when it was with Chad Brown, sit mid-pack and try and move. I don't think this horse is going to try and go to lead. If this horse tries to go to the lead, It's got the 108 early time for speed rating. I don't think that's its best chance. If it sits a little close, maybe second, third, fourth, I did use a 4-stand hope. The class drop, Brad Cox is on fire right now. You can't play against him, and Castellano getting a board is great. So we agree there. Let's talk about the third horse that we're both using, the 12 Reckless Spirit. Getting a little bit shorter price than I was hoping. It's 9-2 here. But this is a very well-bred horse. This is a Juddmonte bred this horse, so there's plenty of talent there. Didn't work out, right? The career just didn't really get going for Eowyn Hardy. They sell this horse privately to CJ Thoroughbreds, goes to Jimmy Bond. Luis Saez rides twice. Doesn't work out. But there were some shitty trips in there. Now drops from the 49 winners of 2 lifetime to the 39 winners of 2 lifetime. If this horse could overcome the bad trips in those last 2 races, I think this horse has a great shot. It's just a question of at what point do you start to say this horse just makes his own problems. I'm willing to give it a shot because of the connections. Bond is 22% off of a similar layoff. He's 27% at the claiming ranks. Really nice ROIs with everything, and really great with Saez aboard. There's a lot of things to like, just maybe not so much the price.
Yeah, I mean, 9-2 seems a little bit too short with this horse, but I think it has a really legit shot at being able to come through here. You mentioned the barn switch. We've had 2 improved races, back-to-back career best buyers since the barn switched. And that last race, look, the pace kind of hindered this horse. It wants it to be a little bit quicker up front or be a little closer to the pace. Last time being 6 lengths back at the half-mile pole, left Reckless Spirit with a little too much to do. I have a feeling because of the draw, you're going to see Saez introduce a little bit more speed in this horse this race, just so that you're not hung out wide that entire turn. I wouldn't be shocked if Reckless Spirit goes back to that first race before the layoff at Tampa, where he's sitting 2 or 3 lengths behind the leaders around the first turn. If Reckless Spirit does that, I think you're going to end up with a pretty good trip here on a horse that those 75 buyers fit at this level. And like you said, I mean, 2 tough trips there. I mean, that last one especially was a brutal trip. And he looked like he was starting to make up ground when he was sitting there at the top of the stretch, and then just kind of had a check and had some issues. And so I'm going to draw a line through that last one at Saratoga and hope that he returns back to getting a little bit better of a trip like that Belmont race. And then we come back and run a competitive buyer and are able to sit close to the pace and then kind of pounce around that last turn.
We're chucking. There's 4 horses. They're all coming out of the same race at this level, at its course and distance. It was on the outer turf course, but 4 of them are coming out of there, including the 2nd and 3rd place horses. You and I are both chucking them completely. I think we both agree that it wasn't a good looking race. The winner was a bit ahead of everyone else, and it was like a 5-way photo for 2nd. The winner was terrible in his next start. So we're completely chucking those. The one horse I am using that you didn't, I'm using Freedom and Whiskey because for 2 reasons. The first thing was I was like, I'm playing him because I'll be damned if this horse beats me a second time right now. And then I looked at it and you brought it up, and I'm glad you did. This actually isn't a terrible fit. This is a much better spot than, Chad Summers. This horse breaks its maiden first time in for a tag against State Breds, then goes to Open Company starter allowance. Well, that doesn't work out. Now State Bred allowance still doesn't work out. So Chad saw the win, went, hey, my exercise riders that kept telling me this horse was actually good, maybe they were right. He got a little ambitious, and then he's walking it back, and I think this is going to be a much better spot. And Chad also did get a win today with Dubai Bobby earlier in the card, 7-1 odds. So it was and won, I think, by like 4 lengths or something. So, we tease Chad sometimes because he's 5 for 67, I think, right now and on the year, but he can get a win, and he's done it already at the meet.
Yep. Yeah. And he is able to kind of pop up in the right spots. If you look at this horse was 30+1 off a win those last 2 races as well. That kind of gives away that it probably wasn't wonderfully spotted in those 2 races. Now it did win at 30+1, but that was a little different scenario when it's first time switching barns, maiden claiming and State Bred level. Like there was a bunch of reasons why, okay, it could surprise there. But when you go into Open Company allowance, then you go into that claiming level or the State Bred allowance, it's just tough. Those are tough spots to kind of see a horse get the second win in. I think this is a better fit. Again, like I said earlier, the buyers do fit. If it can go back to that, and if you look at just the times of those 3 races, where they're running basically 12s when it wins, going a mile and 136, they go a mile and 16th and 142. This horse can't run 142. It's just that simple. It's not fast enough. But now we're getting back to that level where it is competitive in this spot. So I don't hate the play on the 1. I'm glad you brought up the race where a bunch of these horses are coming out of. I think it's like the 3, the 7, and the 8, and possibly one more as well. It comes down to, do you want to use just those horses, or do you want to throw them all out to me? Because they're all right there. And I don't think you can really differentiate between one or the other. And the price, maybe if I'm getting like 20-1 on one of them, then you use just that horse. But I didn't want to go 6-7 deep here. And I didn't think that I think you have interesting new shooters outside of that race that can beat all of those horses. And I just wasn't willing to include all of them because, look, if you do, you're basically hitting the all button in this race of using anyone else.
Yep, and that's something that I learned from you is that you're right. It's the 3, 7, 8, and 11 all coming out of the same race. We're chucking all of them. We're going to move on to the dirt stakes race that they have planned on Sunday. This is the $80,000 Pumpkin Pie Stakes, the second race in the late pick 4 sequence, race 7 on the card at Belmont Park. Favoritism is on number 3, Alicio at 5-2. On our way, the 4 horse is 3-1 on the odds. This is a 7 furlong sprint, 4 fillies and mares. And Mike, I'll go ahead and tell everybody right now, you and I agree on the same 2 horses. I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first.
Oh, I guess I'll talk about Gotham Gala, the 5 horse. This was my second pick in this spot, but I think it's important to I talked about this a little bit earlier when we were just discussing the warm-ups, where you see sometimes horses that warm up aggressively are able to then show a little bit more speed when shortening up and do well. This horse has been going over a mile for the last 10 or so starts in its career, including coming out of mile and 16th races the last 3 times. So on the surface, it looks like maybe 6 furlongs isn't possibly the best distance for this horse. That being said, it was able to break its maiden at 6 furlongs over the dirt, first time touching it, popping an 81 buyer. But the reason I really like Gotham Gala is I think there is a ton of speed in this spot. I mean, you just have 4 or 5 horses that are going to line up front. And the fact that Gotham Gala has been able to show speed going longer and then be able to kind of hold on at that distance tells me she's going to be the one who's going to have the best stamina coming down the lane. I'm hoping that she can pick up the pieces here. And she's been running against better. I mean, Nora Madeline last time out, Royal Flag, Valiance. I mean, they're good horses in the last 2 races in the form line. I just don't see that from anyone else in this spot. I'm hoping she can handle the distance. That to me is the biggest concern here. But there's a ton of speed. And she is going to get the setup. And this track has not been playing to just speed. Today, you could close off the pace on the muddy track right after the rain. It was playing to speed yesterday. But today was a pretty fair track. And look, we've seen a lot of these sprint races where 3 or 4 horses just go and burn themselves. And you got to have someone to pick up the pieces. And we'll talk about that in the last race as well, because I'm taking a crazy pick up the pieces horse. But I think that the Gotham Gala could easily end up sitting right behind a wall of 4 horses, wheel 5 wide, and just run away from them down the lane.
Yep, she was my second pick. I love her. The Eatontown Stakes, especially 2 starts back, really caught my attention because she was pressing the pace the whole way, going a mile and 16th in the slop, and still ended up finishing second. Valiance, the horse that won that you talked about, came back and won the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland and is now going off to the Breeders' Cup to be in the distaff and has, aside from the top 2, probably as good a chance as anybody in that race. So I think the cutback from the 2 turns to a 7 furlong 1-turn race, I think is going to be huge for her. I think it's a great setup, but you and I both really love the 3 Alicio. And when I wrote the preview for this at racenews.com, I was looking at this, I'm like, man, I really love Alicio in this race. I almost was going to single her until I really dove into the PPs, especially if the track comes up wet. 2 wins in a second when she's on wet tracks, so she clearly likes it. The big concern
for AP Indy on the bottom, yeah, that'll do.
I mean, no kidding. She's never gone past 6.5 furlongs, but that breeding you just talked about, I think 7 should be perfectly within her wheelhouse. That last start really jumps off the page. 100 buyer, 13 1/4 lengths. Yeah, is at Aqueduct in the winter, so all the good horses are either on breaks or at Gulfstream. It's only 5 horses, but she did what she was supposed to. The big concern, this is a Bill Mott horse coming off of a really long layoff, and that's not always an angle that you want to play. But Lezcano keeping the mount, the fact that she can sit off the pace and pounce if and when it does fold up, which we both seem to be thinking it will, I'm going to use her. I really hate that she's 5-2 though.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, 7 furlongs is one of the keys here. This is a unique distance. The rest of the field is 4 for 24 at the distance combined.
And 3 of those are from 1 horse.
Right. 3 of those are from the 4 on her way. Look, I don't think the Bronx Beauty or Pacific Gale can get the distance at all. So I'm just immediate line through the 1 and 2. The 4, I think, is just over its head. I think it is the one that's gotten the distance, but I think the 4 horse is over its head. I considered using the 6, never enough time here. That was kind of my 3rd horse. But for me, I like Gotham Gala the most. I think the 3 horse is your best sprinter. And so because of that, I don't think you need to go much deeper than those 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll move on to the 3rd leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park on Sunday, November 1st. I'm so used to saying Saturday. I got to catch myself. Race 8 on the card. This is the Chelsea Flower Stakes, $80,000 purse. Field of 11 2-year-old fillies plus 1 main track only entry, going a mile and 16th on the outer turf course. So it's about a 1.5 turns. Favoritism is on the number 7, Cal D at 5-2. You and I are, I agree with all three of your picks. We are both taking a huge stance against the favorite Caldi here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why, but also your top pick in this race.
Chuck 'em. There's quite a bit of speed in this spot. So that's kind of the first thing here. Obviously, Plum Ali is a very good horse. That's who this horse lost to last time out by 2.5 lengths in the Grade 2 Miss Gallo. So it's not like this horse isn't a very good horse. But to me, I don't think that you're going to get that easy lead that this horse got in that race. The race prior to that, when it won at Saratoga's turf, they went 25.49 on a speed favoring track. That day at Belmont, they went almost 25.48. Those aren't tough paces to hold on against. You've got a lot of other horses that are talented in this spot, and I think you're going to see more pace pressure here. And I think that is really the big one. You have some cheap speed in horses like Jugular that can go 22 and change if they want to. I think that this horse is going to get pressed early. I think if you get that pressure early, it's going to make it difficult for this horse to hold on late. And even the one horse, Psychic Ability, I think is going to go as well. So if you have 2 or 3 horses out there lining up, then I'll take a shot at somebody who's coming from off the pace. I think you have a lot of really talented younger horses that have a chance to step up big time. And we didn't see that improvement from the 7. We kind of saw the flat line from the 7. I would have liked to see it take a step forward if you're going to be what I project to be probably a 7-5 favorite, something like that in this spot. I mean, I want you to be able to continue to improve, not flatline your third start.
So that's exactly why. Plus, those were both small fields. She did that. I mean, she got easy leads against 5 and 6 horse fields and couldn't hold on in one of them because Plum Ali is very, very talented. But the fact that there were only 6 horses in that maiden special weight at Saratoga in August, that seems weird for a juvenile fillies race on the turf. That was the time when you could get, almost 9-1 on her. That was the time to play her, not at 9-5 in the Miss Grillo, and certainly not at 5-2. I'm with you. I would say 7-5, 8-5. She's going to get bet pretty heavily because of those nice buyer speed figures, and I just don't think she's a play here. Who is your top pick in this race?
I'm going to go the 10 horse. Mott's got 2 in here who are both very good. Both had Junior Alvarado up, and that's kind of his go-to guy. And the 10 Lovestruck is the horse that keeps Junior up. So that's one of the main reasons I'm going to go toward this horse. Look, this horse had a terrible trip, atrocious trip, and still won, running a 75 buyer first time out. This is a homebred by the Godolphin. It's a Tappet horse. It should take a step forward second time out. I love the fact that Mott moves this right into a stakes off that maiden score, and this horse was flying at 10-1. I mean, go back and watch that race. It was a mess for Lovestruck.
I watched it 3 times because I couldn't believe that she won from that trip.
It was a mess for Lovestruck. And so the fact that she was able to get home, I mean, I would love to see what this horse can do with a good break. I would love to see what this horse can do without traffic trouble. God forbid you get a good break and no traffic trouble. This was the only horse I had the only race I had one horse in the must use, and that was the 10 horse. This is the closest I came to singling the entire sequence.
I love her too. This was my top pick as well. You want to talk about a rough trip. So she gets hit hard from the rail horse when she breaks out of the gate. But Mott, by the way, Mott wins at first asking with the horse debuting in 2 turns. Those are both individually rare. Yeah. You put them together. She comes off the turn. There's a horse that's in 4th. It's running a little green and blows the end of the turn. That horse starts coming back in right when Lovestruck's moving out. And they have this angle thing where Lovestruck's trying to go outside of horses and literally gets turned sideways, corrects herself, keeps going. You know how many times Junior Alvarado hit her? Never effing touched her. I'm getting pumped up thinking about it because watching that, and she's a bigger filly too, and she's gray, so it just makes her look bigger. I was like, this looks like a monster coming to mow these down. And Junior Alvarado, the whole time in the stretch, just hand right. He knew he had the best horse in the race and rode her like it. Yeah, I'm with you. If you wanted to try and single in this spot, I wouldn't recommend, but if you wanted to, this would be the place to go. The next 2 horses, I'll let you pick which. You mentioned one was that Mott had 2. I think are you talking about the 2 Oyster Box? That's Motion.
Yeah, you're right. I think Junior Alvarado had 2. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I did use Oyster Box too. And by the way, that just to continue to gush about Lovestruck, they also came home in 12s. She came home in a 12-second quarters there. Like, unbelievable race with everything that went on. Yeah, so yes, Oyster Box was the other one. I was thinking there's 2 junior horses. He chose to be on the 10 here. Mm-hmm. I think Oyster Box is interesting. This horse showed with 1 in a turf sprint at Belmont. Now we're stretching out. This is another Tappet horse. It's also interesting that it was Juddmonte bred, but Gainesway now owns. So that kind of caught my eye. But that race actually came back pretty solid at Belmont. You had So Enchanting run second. Bay Storm ended up running third, came back to win next time out. You get the services of John Velasquez aboard. Motion's another one that usually improves their horse second time out. I think that this horse is going to be a little bit closer to the pace, and that's the other reason I like this horse. Was close to the pace in a 22 and change, 46 and change opening quarter and half mile. This one's going to be able to sit right behind that speed, and if they don't go pretty fast out front, I like the chances of the two horse being able to just swoop and get first run on everybody. So I think Oyster Box is going to be sitting in really nice trip. It's actually my third pick in here. The other horse that I liked was Ingressa, the 4-horse. Ingressa is coming out of the Keeneland race, where the Jessamine, where Aunt Pearl ran really well. She's going to be probably the favorite in the juvenile turf, right?
Juvenile Phillies turf. Yeah, it's looking like it. Yeah.
I really like the closing move here from Ingressa. I thought she ran a bang up race. She was all over the place early. Both of her races really have trouble in the running lines, but early on, she didn't settle. And then when she finally did, she started to make a run, but she was just too far behind, and that track was just too fast to make up any significant ground for her here. So, I think she's getting a little bit of a step down in class here, specifically based off of Aunt Pearl. And look, I like Chad Brown improving 2-year-old fillies on the turf. So that's an angle I'm not going to buck. Did you use Chad Brown in this turf filly race?
Oh yeah, shut up. Yes, I did. I'll go back to Oyster Box just real quick. First of all, when I first saw this horse's name before her debut, I texted Aaron. I was like, "This is one of my new favorite names for a horse," and Aaron chimed in agreeing. So Motion, I did a little deep diving. He's 22% when horses win last out. That's a really, really fantastic number. It dips to 14% when it's maiden last out winners, but that actually improves when they're 2-year-olds. So either way, they're all good numbers. And being by tap at Avadine, former mare, this horse should be able to run 2 turns, no problem. And Gracia, of course, you talked about the Jessamine. This is kind of why I'm not as high in Aunt Pearl as some other people seem to be for the Breeders' Cup. That was a very easy lead that she got. It was a big lead, easy lead, and nobody was touching her. So the fact that Ingressa was able to come from almost last and rally up and get third, ignore the fact that she lost by 5 1/4 lengths. This horse was moving the best of anyone in a race where there really wasn't a whole lot of movement. So I did use her. I love the fact that if we do get a softer turf course, she broke her maiden on a good Saratoga turf. So she's got that going for her. I also used the other Chad Brown in here, the 8 Fluffy Socks. This is a horse that the buyer speed figures, if you look at that, you kind of wonder if she's going to be able to fit. But I think that's partly why I'm going to get 6-1 on her. I've also got Irad Ortiz Jr. jumping aboard for the second time. He was on when she lost her maiden debut. Head of Plains Partners bred this horse, which I think it's kind of funny that Saul Cumin and his friends are all getting to breeding, but they still own this horse. I don't think they'll know what to do with a horse really that they bred and owned. If they can keep it, maybe he'll buy back in with like one of his other LLCs, try and get partnership in her. But I mean, she really hasn't done anything wrong. I mean, you can excuse what happened with her maiden. By the way, she lost by less than 2 lengths. Then she breaks her maiden at Kentucky Downs. We talked about how well those horses have been doing, especially the juveniles. And then she comes back and she wins the Salima Stakes on a yielding course. So she can handle the weird funkiness of Kentucky Downs. She handled 2 turns at Pimlico. She handled the soft turf. The buyer speed figures don't fit. But to me, that's the only argument I could see against not using her, unless you wanted to go deep and save your money for the last leg. Is that kind of what happened to you?
I used her in both the Kentucky Downs and the Pimlico race. Part of the problem for me is that Tick, 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 Boom came in third, and that's in the Salima. Like, to be honest, because the 11 I think has no shot. And so if I think the 11 is a total chuck and Fluffy Socks is only 2 lengths better, you need a big step up for Fluffy Socks to be competitive in this spot. Now it's Brown and Ortiz, so it is totally possible that Fluffy Socks takes another step forward. But I mean, look, at 20-1, I'd be interested in Fluffy Socks. At 6-1, it is just not that intriguing to me.
Well, tune in on Monday to find out whether if this was the right time to play against Chad and Irad in the Turf Stakes.
Yeah, that's very true. The 12, by the way, if it does rain, the 12
single.
I was 12-10 if it rains, because the Tappets can still run in the mud, and so I think that there is some, you can make arguments for the 2 and the 10, but man, the 12 looks like it would just go, it would take this field to Romp Town if it does come off the turf.
Yeah, she was a $925,000 purchase as a yearling, is by Curlin, and if there's one horse that you can trust to put out consistent good runners when it's crap dirt, it's curling. I'm with you.
How often do you see Chad Brown enter a horse MTO?
I thought that too.
Turf stakes too. Like that doesn't seem his MO. So the fact that he's throwing with 2 horses in, he's deciding to throw a horse in here that's MTO that horse can run. I would be scared. I would be scared bleepless of the 12 horse if it gets in here.
Totally agree with you. We'll move on to the 4th and final leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park on Saturday. I did it. Sunday, November 1st, the final race of the Belmont Park Fall Meet. Field of 12 New York bred fillies, 3 and up. And Mike, I always kind of tongue-in-cheek complain about the fact that these NYRA sequences always end in some stupid state bred claiming or state bred allowance sprint race with way too many horses entered in it, and I never know what to do. Well, those are always on turf. So NYRA must have listened and said, all right, Magic, we'll toss you a bone. We'll put this one on dirt. So yeah, no, I'm just kidding. This is a really great field. And this is honestly, Mike, this is where we're going to diverge after being almost completely in lockstep. You could use almost any horse in this race, I feel, and make a logical argument for adding to your ticket. The favorite is the number 8, Flash Pack and Barbie at 7-2. I'm not touching her. You got the number 4, Banker's Daughter at 4-1. I'm not going to use that same phrase for that horse because it sounds weird when I say it. So go ahead and give out your top pick.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I noticed is that I'm going to make a little, The first thing I noticed is that Flash couldn't get the lead against this field. Like this, there is so much speed signed up for this 6 furlong race that the odds that this thing falls apart is about 50-50. And when I say falls apart, I mean, like 8 horses quit when they turn for home because there's that many horses that want the lead in this field. So I really I handicapped the entire race and got kind of the horses I think are the best. And that's going to be my must use in my next up. My deep ticket horses are the collapse horses where if this thing actually collapses, these are the 2 horses that I thought could do it. I put the 8 on top. I think the 8 on paper actually makes the most sense if the pace problem doesn't completely handicap this horse. Look, I liked a little bit of improvement second off a layoff. The fact that it went from 6 furlongs to 6.5, I think gives it a little bit of a explanation as to why you didn't see as big of a jump up. The horse was able to get the job done. Yes, it was a 6-4 field. Yes, the horse was even money. I still like the fact that Jose Ortiz took them out and then stays up here. This is third off a layoff. Mission Impossibles are generally good over the mud. I think this horse, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the 7.
I was saying, wait a minute.
Because the 7, Impossible Donna, is my other must use. So okay. I did end up using the 8 here. This horse is it's taking kind of a linear move in class. So we're going from that 64 non-winners of 1 to the non-winners of 1 New York bred here as well. I like the fact that this horse was able to sit behind the pace a little bit and then pounce. That was one of the things I was looking for. It doesn't need the lead, but it's got speed early. I don't think the 6 furlongs should be any issue. The Munnings is one of those sires that, and Aaron mentioned the 6, 2 back. That's a Munnings horse as well. Munnings in the mud is generally a very good angle to play. So I like the fact that we're getting a Munnings horse here. And I think that this horse is going to get first run behind the collapsing speed. And if that happens, I'm hoping that Manny Franco could work out a trip. Kind of gave it away. The other top pick for me, or the other must use, is Impassable Donna right to the inside. And this horse, like I said, third off a layoff. I'm hoping to get another step forward in improvement. I like the fact that Jose Ortiz stays aboard here. And I really thought this race was kind of a crapshoot. And so I'm in the 5 deep here. And those are the 2 I thought you had to use. We're going to get a little funky after that.
So I didn't use either one of those, but again, like I said, I feel like you could make a legitimate case for almost every horse in this field, and it looks like we're about to try and do that. By the way, I just want to say, so Aaron's watching in the background, and he's handicapping as we go with us as we go through this. The look on his face when you suddenly diverge, because you start talking about 6.5 furlong, and the 8 had been in the 6.5 furlong race last out. So we were all thought you were talking about the 8, and when you suddenly diverged to the 7, the look on his face in the background, he would look very confused.
Yeah, we're 8-7.
My top pick is the only one we agree on. It's the 11, Honey Money, all the way outside, almost all the way outside. Linda Rice horse, Jose Lescano loves to put Lescano up. They have a tremendous 23% win rate together. This is a horse that was cost $240,000 at auction for a New York bred. That's pretty phenomenal. Central Banker is a stallion. It is a son of Speightstown. We talk about when we do these New York bred races. One of us always ends up picking at least one Central Banker in these races. I love that this horse is getting an outside draw. You look at what happened when this horse broke its maiden back in March. It was way outside in the 11 post. Jose Lescano was able to break, sit up there on the outside with the speed, and was able to hold on. I know those were maidens. This is now winners of one, and then a very different level of competition. That was also straight 3-year-olds. She's now facing older horses for the first time. So she has some challenges, but I would expect Linda Rice to have her ready to go. It's been a long break, but Linda Rice is 23% off of that kind of a break. If she takes any step forward from that 71 buyer as she develops as a 3-year-old, she should be able to win this race. Expected improvement from that maiden breaking effort in March should be enough to be up there to win this race. So that's why I love her and put her on top. Is there any other reasons why you liked her?
Well, I liked her for all those reasons. I didn't have her in the must use for one main reason, and one thing I'm very concerned about. She's kind of slow.
Oh,
like she won both of those races. I'm not a huge time guy because there's variance in tracks and conditions and everything. Both of those two races were 113, and they were maidens at Aqueduct, which is the lowest level of the New York circuit, right? 113 ain't getting the job done here. I mean, if you look back to the 8-horse, ran at Saratoga and Belmont, both those races go 110 and change, and it won a race in 110 and 95. So we're talking 3 seconds difference. And now, like I said, I'm not a huge time guy because there are different tracks. They play different ways. 3 seconds is significant at 6 furlongs. That's a lot of ground that you need to make up. Now, maybe the 11 was geared down. And like you said, we're off a layoff later in the 3-year-old season. There are improvement angles. Mm-hmm. But those times, and I'm like the fact that we broke our maiden at Aqueduct and they were slow, are two of the big concerns for me with the 11. And that's kind of why I didn't have that 11 up in that must-use category. I do think it's one of those horses where if you're going to spread, is it a logical horse to use? Because Rice Lascano, it makes a ton of sense that this horse does take a step forward. But I have some concerns about the actual speed of the animal.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So we're going to diverge at this point. So go ahead and figure out which one you want to talk about, which of your scoop up the pieces horses here.
Yeah, let's talk about a couple collapsers. The first one I'm going to talk about here is a horse that I think has some tactical speed, so could be forwardly placed, but also has been able to pick up pieces in the past, and that's the 5-horse at 20-1. Look, it won at an allowance level, non-winners of 3 lifetime, 2 back, and it was at Finger Lakes. I get all this stuff, but look, Daniel Conway's a 21% trainer. This is the first horse he's sent here. He's clearly picking his spots very closely. That was open company. We're going down to state bred here. 20-1 isn't absolutely crazy on this horse. It's been able to close ground in a couple of races. The wins have come on the front, so I'm a little concerned about that. But this horse is one of those that I think doesn't need the lead, has a little bit more experience, has beaten winners before, and is facing state bred for the first time. For all of those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a little bit of a swing here on the 5-horse. Hannah Dances. And I do think that if we can get that race, the trip 3 back, but with the buyer 2 back, then we're going to be effective. Now, I know that we're kind of piecing things together.
We're Frankensteining together this horse's chances. Okay.
But the horse closed from 4th place and was able to win the race 3 back. We ran a 74 buyer 2 back, beating winners. No one else in this field can say both of those things. That's the only horse. We're getting 20-1. And like I said, I like the fact we have a 21% trainer shipping in a horse to face at a high purse state bred level with a horse that's beaten open company before.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I Frankenstein together my share of arguments on the show all the time. I didn't use because I don't generally trust Finger Lakes form going up against these levels, but that's just a personal thing. I don't have any issue with anything that you said other than I just don't like that this horse is coming out of Finger Lakes races, but again, this is a big reason you're getting 20-1 on this horse. You also like the horse just to her outside, the 6 Miss Jimmy, who actually was ahead of the horse that we were using earlier. So talk about Miss Jimmy a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, why not go to the other Finger Lakes horse, right? If I'm going to use one, might as well use them both. This is the only horse I thought really was a closer in this field. You have a lot of back running lines where this horse has, been 2-3 lengths off the lead and been competitive. This horse has been running in state bred, but what I do like too is the race 3 back where, over a sloppy track going 6.5 at Saratoga at this level, 64 non-winners of 1 state bred. This horse was 5-1, ran against Bustin' Stones and ended up running second. Oh, by the way, this horse is also 7 for 14 lifetime. Like I get that. Yes, they were at lower levels. Yes, it was at Finger Lakes, blah, 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 blah. It's a non-winners of 1. And this horse is 7 of 14. With 5 second places, we're in the exact 12 of 14 races, and we're getting that horse in non-winners of 1. Yeah, I'll take 12-1. I realize Luzzie's 0 for the meet. There's a bunch of things going against this horse, but the horse will close, and the horse likes the winner's circle. I'll take both of those things at this level in this setup.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you used her because she actually finished second in Flashback and Barbie's last race, and I was going to call you out if you didn't, if you used Flashback and Barbie and not Miss Jimmy. For me, it's the Finger Lakes form. That's all. But if you, but this is just how you're seeing the race, and you follow the New York circuit a lot closer than I do. So I guess if you're listening or watching and you side towards Mike and you think it's not that big of a deal, well, hell, go ahead and play him.
You see some Finger Lake success, and you definitely get the and not calling you a track snob, but you definitely get the track snob Naira players who are like, I'm not playing a Finger Lakes horse at Saratoga. I'm not playing a Finger Lakes horse at Belmont. That's Finger Lakes. Finger Lakes is trash. Like, and yes, it's a lower circuit, but you know what? Every year at Saratoga, you have horses who come over and win from Finger Lakes. You have some very good trainers at Finger Lakes. The Ingleharts are at Finger Lakes. Like, you have some people who take shots with Finger Lakes horses in these exact spots because of the purse size. So they'll bring their best Finger Lakes horse to run against everyone else's worst Belmont horse. And when you get that opportunity, you can see some of these horses that are 7 for 14 lifetime or that have won 3-4 straight races at Finger Lakes take a step forward and just have a little bit more class because they've been doing it longer.
No, I mean, I believe you. Again, it's just a personal bias. I'm a little bit of a track snob in that sense. The two that I use, so I talked about the Ford Banker's daughter. She was my second pick here. This is another daughter of Central Banker. She just broke her maiden 2 back, but something happened with this horse, Mike, and I only have one guess for what. But after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 starts, this horse was terrible. That 6th start was on the turf. 1 try on the turf. They moved her back to dirt, and she's a completely new animal. There was no brakes. There's no change in equipment. The only thing that changed is that she got back on the dirt. It somehow woke her up. She runs a good second, then breaks her maiden by a half length, then just misses at this level on this course and distance by a head. Her buyers have improved steadily each one of those times. I know Dylan Davis isn't the biggest household name on the Naira circuit when you got the Ortiz brothers and the Castellanos, Velasquez, Rosario, etc., but he seems to be fitting this horse pretty well. And just the fact that the light bulb went on. That's all I can guess, but I don't love the 4-1 price, but Dylan Davis does really well with this barn and she seems to be improving. So screw it. I'll hop on the rocket ship. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those that if I wasn't taking the swings with if I wasn't taking the swings with 2 Finger Lake horses, then this would be a horse I would have included on the ticket. I mean, I was like, this is the kind of that next tier where I don't think she's quite good enough to get the job done, but I wouldn't want her to beat me if I wasn't supplementing her with 20 or 12-1 prices.
The last horse I'm going to use, and so it's just kind of ironic that I've not made fun of you, but I was like, I'm not using those horses because of Finger Lakes. My third horse in has raced at Finger Lakes once, and she lost by over 20 lengths. So try and figure out how this makes sense. That was her second career start. I'm talking about the number 2. She's a super freak. And a lot of this is based off of something wacky is going to happen in this sequence. And I was trying to figure out, kind of like you were, who's an underneath horse that could screw things up. This horse isn't going to be necessarily a scoop 'em up kind of thing. If the pieces fall apart, based on her recent running style, she's probably going to be up closer to the lead. But Irad Ortiz Jr. is jumping aboard for a very small barn he never rides for. This barn, by the way, a win in 4 seconds in 10 starts at the meet. That tells me that there's just a little bit of racing luck, but this barn has been in the exact 50% so far. And if you look at the race 3 back when this horse was at Saratoga, similar level, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, was leading, and Ricardo Santana Jr. just decided he didn't need the whip anymore and just threw it away in the stretch, and then she fades a little bit and ends up being third. If he doesn't lose the whip, if you watch that, I don't know if this horse necessarily wins, but she was right there behind Bustin' Scones, who got second, and then went on to win and beat those horses that you're using. If Santana has the whip, I believe that maybe there's a little bit better chance. I also think that having Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to be a big bonus because if there's a lot of speed that comes out early, I think Irad's going to be able to read that, pull back a little bit, try and save ground and get the jump. A huge concern, this horse has 17 starts, has lost the last 16. The one win was by over 10 lengths, then promptly went to Finger Lakes and got completely destroyed. So there's a lot of question marks about this horse. That's why it's 10-1. But like I said, I was trying to find a price horse that I think could get ignored and try and surprise, and this is where I landed.
Yeah, this horse does not have a single race that wins this race. That was my biggest issue. You can't point to any of those races and say this effort will beat all of these horses. And that was my biggest problem with this horse. Because logically, this horse probably hits the try. I think this is one of those that makes sense in the third slot to me. But with pace pressure in this race, having the inside draw, you know what you don't want is a speed horse who doesn't make the lead on the rail. That's pretty much the worst possible thing that you could have, right? Like, because let's say Irad does take back. Now she's a super freak, is catching mud in her face the entire race, and then has to wheel 3 wide from the pocket to be able to win. Like, that's a lot to ask for a horse that doesn't have a race good enough on the page to win. If you want to go crazy, you want to get a little nutty, if someone scratches, I'm using the 1.
Dude, that was the only. I was back and forth between those 2 horses. Sorry.
Yeah, you should use the 1 instead of the 2 then. Just trust your pal on that one. Rosario takes them out for a barn that is 2 for 4, first time with the trainer. This is a career Finger Lakes horse, which is, again, something Magic hates. But at least you do have some of those mid-70s races on the page, or low 70s races on the page, which may be able to be good enough to be able to get the job done here. And the fact that Joel Rosario picks up a horse where we say there's a ton of speed and we need to find a closer, like, he manufactures closers out of speed horses. So I could completely see this horse be able to kind of sit in the middle and then make a run. So the 1 horse to me would be the next horse in. I may even try and, you know what, let's add the 1. I'm going to go ahead and add the 1 here. I can't use 2 of the 3 Finger Lakes and not use them all. So I'll filibust a little as Magic fixes the graphic for the back end. But I didn't go crazy with this ticket. I was only $45 before adding that horse. So, you know, I'm only kicking the ticket up to $54, just helping you out in the math.
Thank you.
So I don't think that's out of range here. And I think this is the race that produces a price. So I'm going to go ahead and go 6 deep in this spot.
And she's got 6 wins from 22 starts. So you go with it. She's got 2 wins at this distance. She was in the exact at 9 of her 12 starts last year. Yeah, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to stick with the 2 for now, but I'm going to give this a good long consideration just because you got. And the reason I was between the 2 is I was looking for a long shot with a strong jockey and could I make an argument for either one of them, and that's why I landed the 2. But
you didn't end up with the 6 in Luzzy?
No, because if it wasn't for that 1 victory, I think I would have accidentally called him Landeros once or twice in this show. So poor guy just can't catch a break, Kenny.
Yeah, James isn't wrong here. If you can be short in other legs, the all button is your friend in this spot.
Yes.
Like we're making. I'm literally making cases for all 3 Finger Lakes horses. That means something wacky could happen.
And you sure you weren't smoking a little wacky tobacco? Is that what happened to you before?
I'm not the one in California, my friend.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Mike and I are going to go through and give out our tickets one last time. If you're watching live or the replay on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thanks for joining us. I have it right here on the screen, and it's updated because Mike did the math for me in his head like an adult.
Who knew?
Correctly did it in his head like an adult. I'll go ahead and start things off, Mike. I'm going to go 1, 4, 9, 12 with 3, 5 with 2, 4, 8, 10 with 2, 4, 11. That is a $48 ticket for 50 cents. Go ahead and give out yours.
You were more expensive than me before I added that 1 too. That's a rarity.
It's because I was playing Chad Summers. That's why.
There you go. Or was he playing you?
He's always.
All right. My ticket for 50 cents. I'm going to go 4, 9, 12 with 3, 5 with 2, 4, 10 with 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that'll cost you $54 for 50 cents.
And the 11. Don't forget the 11 there.
Oh, and the 11. Yeah, I forgot the 11. So 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 in the last race, which will be $54 for 50 cents.
Perfect. Make sure you go to racenews.com. We have plenty of stuff there for you that you probably haven't checked out. We have the Jessica Pfeiffer interview that Mike mentioned. If you haven't listened to the pre-entries Breeders' Cup reaction show that I hosted with Aaron and Jared giving their thoughts, it's a longer show, but there's a lot of great information. So you can find that. The YouTube video is up as well. So if you'd rather watch us, on the screen, like how I screen share here with the fields for the races we're talking about, you can see the whole fields right there. Coming up later this next week, like I said, we're going to have the reaction show. The interview with John Lees is going to be posting Monday morning. All next week, it's going to be Breeders' Cup, Breeders' Cup, Breeders' Cup. Lots of action coming at you. So make sure you're staying tuned. The Inside Track Wagering Guide to the Breeders' Cup is available for pre-sale. That'll be coming out middle of next week. This thing is massive. This is one of the biggest things we do. I know Slim's been focused on it very hard since the pre-entries came out. Aaron's pretty much got his initial picks figured out. And then once the draw comes out, we'll adjust and see what happens. Mike, I know you've been busy. Have you had a chance to really dive into the Breeders' Cup fields that much yet?
No.
It's understandable.
I've kind of done the pre-entry work and looked through it, but I haven't. I printed out the forms for the first time today. Really going to get started handicapping. I have obviously the bombs this weekend, so did Belmont today. Was able to hit the late pick 4, the pick 5, which was kind of nice. Would have been nicer if our 20-1 shot got up in the 4th leg, but we'll still take it. Going to Del Mar tomorrow. Be back at Belmont on Sunday. So I got that stuff knocked out. So now it's time to focus on the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to be poring over these things for a lot of time. I got 20 grand in entries that we're playing next week. So it's going to be focused on the Breeders' Cup just a little bit. So yeah, I'll be paying attention to them, and then have top 4 selections in the guide. And then hopefully we'll have Sama Bombs for both Friday and Saturday Breeders' Cup out on Thursday. So you can go ahead and get those early if you're interested.
So I got a special treat for you guys. If you're watching live or the replay, if you're watching the video version, Aaron, because he was handicapping with us, just gave out his ticket. So you just got a 3rd bonus ticket for free. I'm not going to read it out because if you're just listening to this and you want that, you got to go back and watch it. It'll be there for you.
Most expensive ticket coming from Aaron.
Yes, it is. And that's all I'll say. I will say that he's got an opinion on that 1 versus 2 horse in the last leg. So you can see that. Go watch the replay, or if you're watching live, hey, congrats, you got it. Thank you so much for joining us. Mike and I are going to take a well-deserved, much needed rest this weekend as we get ready for the Breeders' Cup action. But until next time, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Magic Mike Show. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show, tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show, you can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.